manifestation to gain ground. That is how. There is nothing called manifestation except for this duality coming into the fore, coming into appearance. Grahya Rupa Jagat Abhasatmana. Jagat Abhasa. This reality as it appears, this samsara, is not considered to be fundamentally paramarthikatvena satya. No, it's not that. But abhasatvena, it appears like that. Abhasatmana spurati iti naishargikaha स्वात्यांत्र्यात् प्रथम उद्भासितः अस्याः प्राणसम्बन्धः. The first step, whatever it starts, this whole creation, everything starts with pranasambandha. Even if one is a completely rational, materialist, scientific person in his attitude, what creates this sansara? It has to have some life force comes into being. You have a material, you have the material existence, and then they will call it jellyfish or whatever, because you have to explain the biodiversity, human beings, animals, birds, everything. They are the ones who make samsara look like what it is. And all this starts with that fundamental thing, prana samantaha. And then in the this is the the Bhattaraka and the Siva Sutra Vimarshini we were doing. In the Vimarshini, he explained Nanu ukta kanchukitvam api asya kasma tadeva nivartate. This bhusa kanchuki, this fancy dress. Atma is in disguise as a human being. Why shouldn't be shown? Why shouldn't drop it immediately after Atmiyana? He's explaining Nishargat Swatyantratmanah Swabhavat Ayato Naisargikaha Prana Samandha Sambita Kila Bhagavati Vishwavaichityam Avabhasaishuhu Sankoch Abhasa Purvakam Sankujat Asesa Vishwaspuratmatmaka Pranana Rupa Grahaka Bhumikam Shritva. It relies on that Grahaka Bhumika. That Jivatma comes into picture, and Grahya Rupa Jagat Abhasatmana, then he has to have a Sansara. In Upanishads, in the Vedas, there is this mention. Sansara was created by God, he created. Then you know what? The Devatas also had a discussion as to what kind of form we need. The humans, the animals, they all deserved some form so that they can be here. Otherwise, they need some sustenance. If the mother gives birth to a child, she has to feed the child. So God created us, then He has to create conditions for our survival. Otherwise, His Srishti, His creation will not survive. That is what He is saying. Grahya Rupa Jagat Avhasatmana Spurati iti Naishargikaha. Therefore, it is called Naishargika, is Sahaja. But first of all, it's not fundamentally real. Therefore, it's Naishargika. Naishargika Oyam. In this adhyasa that we identify with this samsara, and this is real. Shankaracharya says in Brahma Sutra, when he's introducing the topic, that you'd never know when it started. It's naishargika, it's swabhavika. This is how it is, and therefore we consider ourselves what we are. We consider ourselves here, our families are real, our jobs are real, everything is real. We are so much obsessed with all of it. And we are not making any effort to think like that, feel like that. This comes with who we are at this level of consciousness. Upstream, rowing the boat in an opposite direction, going to a higher level of consciousness, which will enable us to see through this magical game. Yeah, that's a hard job. And once we reach that higher level of consciousness, when we return to ourselves, so to say, then of course samsara will lose its impact on us. It will not frighten us anymore. Naisargika swatantriyad prathama udbhasita asyaha prana sambandha. That is what first appears, that prana sambandha, because through prana sakti only this whole creation happens. Then we were looking at some texts which are quoted in the Siva Sutra Vimarshini, and it's very beautiful. Therefore, we had just touched upon it, and I'll complete it. Then we'll go to the next. By the way, we are just left with 2 more aphorisms. If you don't complete the text today, we'll just skip it for Saturday. यासा शक्ति ही परा सूक्ष्मा व्यापिनी निर्मला शिवा शक्ति चक्रस्य जननी परानंदमृतात्मिका महाघोरेश्वरी चंडा सृष्टि संहारकारिका त्रिवहम त्रिविधम त्रिस्तम बलाद कालम प्रकर्षति. This is a very, very Vajasaneyanam. In the Vajasaneya, this is mentioned. But this is an extremely powerful, very cryptic statement which sort of says so many things at one place. Yasa Sakti Parashukshma. What kind of Sakti we are talking about? We are talking about the Vimarsha Shakti of Lord Shiva, the supreme eye consciousness, that Parashakti, from which all the lower level energies are extending. They're coming out of that. Yasa Sakti Parashukshma Vyapini Nirvala Shiva. It is Shivatmika. The I consciousness is not separate from the pure consciousness. It is an analytical distinction we are making in order for our meditation, for our vichara, in order to transcend the yoke of ignorance. We are making these analytical distinctions. This Prakasha and Vimarsha, this in Nirmala Shiva, Sakti Chakrasya Janani, and all the Sakti Chakra that we talked about. Shakti Chandra Chakra Sandhana Vishwa Sangharaha. Earlier we have done this aphorisms. That how this whole thing has manifested. If you analyze this, then you can overcome whatever is appearing. Like for example, there is a problem in our lives, and suddenly we get very upset, either in the office or at work and at home. Why did it happen? And then you analyze. There's a certain event which happens. The government is taken aback. It's surprised. Then what does it do? It immediately sets up some investigation as to how that could happen. And then the investigation report says that it's because of this that this happened. Then there is no agonizing over why it happened. You want to now move towards a solution. You want to find out how to get out of it, how to prevent this particular calamity or disaster, whatever happened. Why that happened, you now know. You are not curious about it. You are not surprised about it. What you are concerned about it, what is the way forward? Similarly, he's saying that this whole interesting thing is Yasa Sakti Parashakshma Vyapini Nirvala Shiva Sakti Chakrasya Janani. Now you do Anusandhana, Sakti Chakra Sandhana. Then you can overcome Parananda Mritatmika. What is her Swarupa? Parananda Mritatmika, he's mentioning. And Mahaghoreshwari Chanda. Now, these are the interesting things that we need to sort of, think about a little. What is this Mahaghoreshwari? Now, the commentators, it's Nirmala, it's pure, Chinmay Rupa, Kalyana Swarupa, and a Vyapaka, Sarva Vyapini, all pervading, okay? And then Shukshma, Atyanta Shukshma, you cannot see it. You cannot do any guesswork. Whatever conclusions you draw either through Pratyaksha or Anumana, you're not going to reach there because it's Parashakti, you can only meditate on it and then rely on the sayings of the wise men, the sadhakas, and the texts. This is the Sambit Shakti, and this is the mother of the Shakti Chakra, what sort of going down, it emanates, it spreads, and it activates this whole reality the way it manifests, the phenomenal reality at the bottom. And he's saying that all this is essentially that Prana Shakti which is manifested, and that Prana Shakti, when this Parashakti sort of connects and it becomes Prana Shakti, then this whole samsara becomes dynamic. It attains that dynamic mode. And there are different ways in which it sort of appears and it functions. And this is explained by these adjectives: Trivaham, Trividam, Tristam, Balat, Kalam, Prakashati. But first, Mahaghoreshwari. What is this Maha? They say that this Parama Shiva Shakti, the Parama Shivatmika Shakti, is saying that there are this, like for example, Lord Shiva is referred to as Ghora, beyond all fears and anxieties. And there is a mantra which is considered to be most important mantra. So Aghora Rupa is Parananda Amrita Swarupa, the meaning of the word Aghora. And what is Ghora? There's another manifestation, another appearance, another way in which it sort of allows us to connect with it, or we can meditate with it. Ghora Rupa is Antarmukha Ananda Swarupa. Parananda Swarupa is Aghora. Ghora is Antarmukha Ananda Swarupa. When you are meditative, you turn inwards. When you go beyond outward and inward, you have Parananda Amruta Swarupa, Sakti. Then Ghoratari. Ghoratari is Bahirmukha Sansara Rupa. The same energy, that Shakti, becomes externally oriented. This Sansara starts happening. Now she is referred to here as Mahaghoreshwari. Beyond all that, Mahaghoreshwari, that is the Sambit Shakti. And then there is word Mahaghoreshwareshwari. What is the next word? Chanda. What is Chanda? What is this Chanda Rupa? Chanda is frightening? No, Chanda here is saying that Chanda is you have that Atma Gopanatmika Shakti of Lord Shiva. That is his Leela. How he creates Sansara. He is hiding his Swarupa. We have to make a lot of struggle to have that Shiva Tattva Upalabdhi or Bhairavapatti. Generally, he is not available. He is available through his game. The magician's truth is not available to us. That is why we are confounded and excited about his magic. If that becomes available to us, then we are not interested in his magic. We are interested in the magician. How does he do all this? We lose our interest in what is happening. We are more interested in who is the magician. We want to know. He's Parameshwara. Now the Chanda is referring to that aspect, the Shakti, who is able to hide its Swarupa. She can hide herself. That is why she is called Chanda here. That is that Chaturya, that she is very cunning, that cunning energy of that Prakriti. And then after Chanda, what is the word? Srishti Sanghara Karika. Srishti and Sanghara. She creates and she destroys. Okay. And how she sort of creates and destroys? She is referred to, it'll come in the commentary, Kala Karshini. She is referred to as Kala Karshini. In the Varadaraja, we'll go there. He has mentioned why is it called Kala Karshini. He's saying, Yasa Sakti Para Shikshma Vyapini Nirmala Shiva Sakti Chakrasya Janani Parananda Amritasmika Mahaghoreshwari Chanda Srishti Sanghara Karika Trivaham Trividam Trishtam Balat Kalam Prakarshati. Now we will now understand what is this Trivaha, Trividam. Will go there. But let's just go beyond a few verses in him. We'll come back there. Chandrama Bhaskara Banyatma Nadi Tritaya Bahinam. What is that Trivaha? Trivaha is what? Ida, Pingala, and Shushamna. Okay, and there are three nadis. And then you have Trividha also. Pramana, Prameya, and a Pramata. Right? Knower, process of knowing, and what is known. This whole samsara is about that. Pramata, Pramana, and a Prameya. This duality. The knower, the known, and the process of knowing. Ida, Pingala, and a Shushamna within this Trivaha, these Vayus, this Prana Sakti extends through these Vayus. So Trividham, Trishtam, and three stages. What is that? The Atita, Vartamana, and Bhavishyata, past, present, and future. Tristam, Balat Kalam Prakarshati. Valat, that is the most frightening thing. Valat Kalam Prakarshati. With a force, it transcends time. This Atita, Vartamana, and Bhavishyata, these are the modes in which time appears, manifests, and becomes obvious in front of our eyes, before our senses. And then in Pralaya, these are kind of withdrawn. They kind of pull into, sucked into that Karanatmaka Avastha. That becomes Pralaya. That is what he's trying to say. Valat Kalam Prakarshati. That is what he's mentioning, but the commentary he will give a little more elaboration. I'm just looking at that thing. What he's saying? Chandrama Bhaskara Banyatmanadi Tritiya Bahinam Antar Vahir Vishan Niryan Nishwasa Uchwasa Lakshanam. You have prana and apana. You have breathing in, breathing out. That is the prana sakti, how it flows within you, right? So these are the modes in which the details of the Shakti are being discussed. What is that prana sambandha? Atita Vartamanadi Trividham Kalam Atmani. In your consciousness, these differentiation of reality or the time aspect of reality as past, present, and future, which appears Karshan Antar Vahicheti. And it pulls them inside, both the internal and outside aspect. Kathyate Kala Karshini. Kala Karshini. Kali is also referred to as Kala Karshini. She pulls time. She actually beyond all time. She's that meta time. The details which appear in our lives, which we call our time. Everybody said we had a good time, we had a bad time. All these times of all of us are premised, sustained, and again sucked into nothingness and withdrawn by that Mahakala or Mahakali, whichever way you want to understand it. The tattva, the details are there. So he's saying that that is the main thing that we have to keep our eyes fixed on, that the details are very attractive, they enamor us, they excite us, they make us curious. But remember the source from which they're appearing and into which they're disappearing. But for upasana, we need to at least identify that causal power which make them appear and disappear. Then we can actually chase that anugraha sakti. Because right now we are troubled by that tirobhava sakti. He hides himself. Then it's like the baby is playing hide and seek with the child. The child has to find the mother again. Whether it has to cry, run around, it has already figured out where mom hides. When the mom plays hide and seek with the baby figures out. They have a game. They both play. And after some time, the child finds the mother. Otherwise, it cries. That is what the sadhana is all about. So this is that prana sambandha is being explained. So look at the commentary now. Chanda balat kalam prakarsati. Now this is explained in the Siva Sutra Vimarshani. Iti samvidaha eva bhagavatyaha pranakramena. That Sambit Shakti, that Bhagavati, Prana Kramena, starting with Prana Shakti, she manifests and she sort of spreads it out. Nadi Traya Vahi Soma Surya Banyatmana. Soma Surya and Vanni, that refers to that Pramana, Prameya, and Pramata. And Nadi Traya is Ida, Pingala, and Sushamna. Atita Anagata Vartamana Rupa. The Tristha word is there. Past, present, and future. Bahya Kala Ullasana Vilapana Karitvam Uktam. Ullasana and Vilapana. Ullasana is that profusely, it's like water, sort of, when you have a barrage and there are exit gates and you see how the water comes out ferociously with a lot of force. It expands through a small gate, the water, the sluice gates, it comes out. Similarly, this whole sansara, there is ullasana, it manifests, it expands, becomes very obvious. And then there is vilapana. You close the sluice gates, no water, it becomes calm again. If you're looking at that particular area, just ahead of the sluice gates, if you watch them in a barrage, on certain days when they are not passing any water, it's very calm. On days they start releasing water during monsoon because there's heavy rain in the upper catchment areas. If you look at it, it frightens you, right? Because it's going to create disaster. It's going to, submerge a lot of areas. It creates flooding. Similarly, this whole Srishti and Sanghara, the Srishti and Laya, the appearance and disappearance. बाह्यकाल उल्लासन विलापनकारित्वम् उक्तं तदुक्तं स्वच्छन्देपि in स्वच्छन्द tantra. प्राणः प्राणमयः प्राणो विसर्गा पूर्णं प्रति नित्यम् आपूरयत्येष प्राणिनाम् उरसि स्थितः. This prana shakti is the mother of all these things. He's trying to say that this Sambhi Shakti, when it starts, Bhagwan Shakti, it creates this sansara, it appears as prana, then it extends herself. Everything is Naishargikaha prana samandha, that is being the aphorism. There is a lot of praise for what is the centrality of prana Shakti in our lives. In fact, if you talk about sadhana, we'll go that way. Like, for example, all the Indriya Devatas had a fight and they wanted to find out who is superior amongst them. And they go to Prajapati, and Prajapati says, do one thing. One by one, you exit the body or the mind body complex where you are. And whosoever goes and the system crumbles, then he was indispensable. So he's your leader. They said it's a good idea. The first, the Shravana Shakti left, the power to hear things, he leaves the body. What happens? The person becomes hard of hearing, but he survives. There are a lot of people have hearing problems, but he survived. Nothing happened. He came back after some time. He says the body still functions. All of us, all the rest are happily doing their functions, their job. Then next one, the eyes goes out. Darshanendriya goes out, the ability to see. And then in returns, he found that, okay, the person had become blind. And there are a lot of people who don't have eyesight, but they are fine, they're doing fine. So he realizes that I'm not indispensable. And after that, who leaves this? Before that, who leaves that tvacha, the ability to touch, sparsha shakti? It left the body. The person, like, lepers have this problem. So he lost touch, the ability to feel touch. He lost that sensitivity. After some time, it came back, but the person remained alive. Of course, it can be life threatening because if there is an injury, you will not feel it. Then obviously, there'll be bleeding and the person will die. If you don't feel any pain, you lose your ability to feel the touch. That's life threatening at certain times. But overall, if a person, because he has eyes, he can see there is bleeding, he can stop it. So the fellow survives. Then the ability to smell goes out and comes back. Then the ability to taste goes and comes back. The body survives. Then you know what happens? The prana wanted to leave the body. All the Indriya Devatas run after him. He say, where are you going, sir? No, because I also want to find out whether I'm indispensable. No, no, you don't go. Because if you go, what do we do here? This body is going to be dead. We will lose our job. So please come back. That is how he said, you are our boss. We shall worship you. So in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and not only one place, there are a couple of other places where the story is repeated, where they mention that prana, that is the central thing. That is very, very critical. So that prana sambandha is the first item on the list of the creator. That Shakti which creates the whole samsara. That is agenda number one. When prana sambandha happens, everything else will happen. Without it, nothing will happen. Therefore, he's mentioning pranaha pranamayaha prano. So you have prana and apana, prana breathing out and apana inhaling. Visharga apuranam. Visharga, you know, that Visharga Shakti, this creative power, prana and apana the apuranam prati. Nityam apurayati esha praninam urashi sthitaha. Where is the prana Shakti? Obviously in our hearts. Here it's not the physical center, but the inner core of us. If the heart doesn't function, of course, nothing functions. Most critical things, of course, the brain is also there, but then centrally the heartbeat is so critical and it needs oxygen. So this whole respiratory system, the heart, they together sort of they hold this body. Of course, the brain, without it, nothing is going to make any sense. The person will be in a state of vegetative continuation of the framework. Iti pranasya. And then he is sort of quoting from elsewhere. Hakarastu smritaha prana swaprabritto halakritihi. In Kashmir, everyone has their script, like you have Bengali script and Oriya script and Telugu script and Hindi, Devanagari script. In Kashmir, they used a particular script. It is called Sharada script. And in the Sharada script, the Hakara is written like a plow, halakritihi. And this Hakarastu smitaha pranaha swaprabhritvo halakritihi. The Hakara, aham, you remember, we had done it in the beginning. That Hakara, when we did these Banamatrikas, Hakara is that creative energy, Visharga. And there's a bit of discussion on it, you will mention. So the Hakara is very important. You know why? It is anach. There is no ach there. There is no vowel. Ka, you're saying. And it's there in all of us. And that is the creative energy they mention. And it is halakriti. So they essentially, the purpose of this is to give importance and praise to that prana sakti. And Naisargika prana samandha, that is what they are extending and explaining it. And he's saying, Ityukta Nitya Sri Swachanda Bhattaraka Rupa Pranamayatwada. Swachanda Bhattaraka Rupa, the boss of everyone. Pranamayatwad, he is Pranamaya, because with that everything happens. Visharga Apurataya Srishti Sangara Karitvam Avihitam Iti Yuktam Uktam. It's logically mentioned because Srishti and Sanghara, everything starts and ends with the playing out of the Prana Shakti or the withdrawal of the Prana Shakti, iti Uktam. That is very good. Yuktam Uktam. Yuktam Uktam. Logically said. Naishargikaha prana sambandha iti. Therefore, it is said is Naishargika prana sambandha. Ateva Sri Bhattakalatina pranakhya nimitta dadhyam. He's saying prak sambit prane parinata. So, Bhattakalata has also says prak sambit prane parinita. So, first thing parinata. First, the sambit sakti assumes the form of prana sakti. Then only everything else will play out, because without that prana sakti, nothing is going to sort of make sense. And also, if you look at some of these Upanishads, that there is a lot of emphasis on prana upasana. Okay, so yo vai pranaha sa pragyaha ya eva pragya sa pranaha. This is Kaushitaki Upanishad. Okay, Kaushitaki Upanishad in 3/3. If you're looking for the particular mantra, yo vai pranaha sa pragyaha yava pragya sa pranaha. You know, in our tradition, the yogic tradition, one critical importance is given to pranayama. So you have yama niyama asana pranayama. Because if you want to control your thoughts, the first step is in fact to have breath control or focus on the breath. Among the Buddhists, they have two ways to deal with the prana shakti. One school of meditation says that you need to initially practice concentration. And how do you do it? Samatha meditation. So they just try to, it's not manipulation like in pranayama in the yogic tradition, some kind of a disciplining of the breath. Some breath control is there. Then vipassana, or there is this meditation technique called anapanasati, where they're essentially focusing. Anapanasati is essentially one Buddhist form of pranayama where you only watch your breath. You don't try to manipulate it. You also have that shakya. That's a very interesting technique which they prescribe, that you only watch your breath. If you do manipulation like pranayama, you'll quickly gain concentration, but that's not sustainable. That is the Buddhist argument. The yogic methods will take you to the peak very quickly, but will not enable you to stay there permanently, because that's an outcome of a manipulative thing. Like Vedanta also says, you can do upasana and yoga and all, and you can very quickly go to that samadhi stage. But the samadhi stage is not going to be self-sustaining, because it's not based on jnana. It's based on sadhana. There is a karya karana bhava. There are certain causal elements which give rise to that stage. If you remove the causal elements, they'll not work. Like you have a few servants at home, some help at home. So they come and they help you clean your kitchen and bathroom and everything. They make your bed and clean and keep everything spick and span. And there would be one help who asks you, "Sir, would you like to have a cup of tea or coffee early in the morning?" You're spending a lot of money. One fine morning, you find out it's not sustainable, it's too expensive, or you are going to states where keeping all these people is just out of question, so you have to be on your own. Now, if you stay back, you don't pay these people. They're going to do the work 1 or 2 days, emotional, they will stay, and then they will say, "We have to find our work." They'll go away. Nobody is going to stick to you. So you have to have that causal element, provide that causal element, the effect manifests. Now, the meditation, breath control, and everything, you do it continuously, there's some outcome. Therefore, they mention that you watch your breath, that anapanasati they prescribe. That's a good thing, which takes a longer time, but self-sustaining. Like Vedanta says, Rite Jnanam na Kaivalyam. Without Atma Jnana, you're not going to get it. You can do, but it's also true that Jnana without Upasana also doesn't fructify. So you have to do a lot of sadhana for self purification. Otherwise, you only have bookies realization in a very bookies way. You can explain what it is, but you won't feel it. You are like a sales manager who is in a showroom explaining how the car functions, but the car doesn't belong to him. It's meant for somebody who can pay for it. It's a little like that. Coming back, this prana sambandha thing is very critical. And whenever the mind or a person has a panic attack or he has a lot of disturbing thoughts, what are the spiritual technique quickly to come back to yourself? If you do pranayama or you just attend to your prana thing, just watch your breath, take long breaths few times. If you don't do it, just watch your breath. And you'd see immediately the mind sort of turns very quiet. The point of saying all this is that this prana sambandha word is being mentioned, which has significance to make sense of the theoretical problem we had as to why the jnani's body would not fall immediately. He doesn't have to commit suicide. Why should he do that? He doesn't have to. He has to. It's the explanation is that if you are riding a bike, you remember, I'm talking about normal bike, not a motorbike, and then you pedal very hard, and then you gain some momentum, you gain some acceleration, and after that you just don't do any pedaling anymore, but still the cycle keeps moving on. That is prarabdha. No more efforts there, but it keeps moving because of the momentum. And then because of friction, after some time, it will slow down, it will come to a halt. That is, beyond that, there is Videha Kaivalya. Atmajnana has happened, but there is some prarabdha karma because of which the body has to continue. The purpose of this sutra is, in fact, to tell us that first a person becomes Jivana Mukta, then he gets Videha Kaivalya, but he needs to understand that there is no hurry and he doesn't have to go. His presence here is a blessing for others. He can do Lokashangraha. Even if he doesn't Lokashangraha happens. The very presence of a sadhu, a really self-realized person, is a blessing for others. Therefore, that is how this is very important, and that sort of is coming to an end. And of course, I'm not getting into the discussion on Kundalini and how from Muladhara there is a lot of discussion within Ida and Pingala and Shushumna, the channels through which they say that there are something like 72,000 veins, the nadis in a body, and the three main ones are these Ida, Pingala, Ida left side, Pingala right side, Sushumna in the middle, and then you sort of channel your energies, the prana shakti, through a very specific method. If a person has not practiced it, he can mislead you. It's not a matter of intellectual discussion, it's all about practice. Now what happens is the person now has ascended to that higher plane. Now we are going back because it's the penultimate aphorism. There is a lot of praise for that particular sadhaka. Okay. And therefore he is mentioning what happens. Nasika antar madhya sanyamat kimatra sabya sabyasya sousumneshu. Kimatra, what to do? Now, Prana Sakti, the indication is that somebody will say that I have to do a lot of sadhana even after Jivana Mukti. You're saying, no, you don't have to. Savya and Asavya means Savya and Apasavya. Those of you do shraddhas and you do pujas during pitri karmas. So first you offer water in doing tarpanam. You offer water to the devatas, so you are savya. So the thread is on your left shoulder. And then when you are offering it to the rishis, they'll put you on the neck, your sacred thread. And then when you're offering it to the pitris, you turn. North direction is for the rishis, the purva direction is for the devatas, and then you turn to the south direction for the pitris, and then you become apasavya. That means you put the sacred thread on your right shoulder. Okay. Now, the savya and apasavya refers here to ida and pingala, the breath control where you breathe through the left nostril or the right nostril. All these are there. Kim atra sabya sabyasya susumneshu. Now, whether you are channeling it to the left channel or the right channel or the central channel, what is the relevance of the discussion and more? For whom? Nasika antar madhya sanyamat. Now, this whole thing has to be elaborated. We are breathing through our nose, right? Nasika randhra. And then when you go deeper inside, so antah here is referring to the internal consciousness, antara samvita. And then a madhya means antaratama, the deepest, not corner, the sanctum sanctorum, the deepest, the most innermost core of your consciousness. And then when you go there and you have established yourself there, what to talk about these breath management or the sadhanas, or the left channel, the right channel, or the middle channel, what to talk about them? That is what the aphorism says. Let's look at how the commentators are making sense of it. I'm deliberately saving the last aphorism for our last class, because we will also do a bit of winding up, and there is a mantra, the guru who has written the commentators. Sarva Nari Chakra Pradhaneshu, Sarva Nari Chakra Pradhana Rupeshu, Sabya Apasabya Susumneshu, Dakshina Vama Madhya Nadi Padeshu, Ya Nasika. So everything happens with this Nasika word, because there is a Kutila Agamana. The air moves in a twisted way. It goes and it comes out. Then, that is how the Nasika word is found in Sanskrit. Sarva Nadi Chakra Pradhana Rupeshu, Sabya Apasabya Susumneshu, Dakshina Bama Madhya Nadu Padeshu. Susumna means Madhya Nadi, Dakshina Nadi, and then Sabya, Apasabya. Ya Nasika, Nasate, Kautulyena Bhati iti. Why is it called Nasika? Because it carries Kautulyena in a twisted fashion, iti kritva Kutila Vahino Prana Sakti tasya antah iti antari samvita. Now, the one which sort of goes beyond the breathing process, that consciousness, tasyaha api madhyam, even go deeper into that, sarvantara tamataya, which is the innermost of all other levels of consciousness. Yad vimarshamayam rupam, that particular I consciousness, supreme I consciousness, Yad vimarshamayam rupam, tat sanyamad. What is sanyama? In Yoga Sutra, they say dharana, dhyana, samadhi. These three stages are referred to as sanyama. Here, sanyama would be abhyasa. So you do your pranayama, you do your meditation and prana sadhana, but then if you are able to withdraw and establish yourself in that innermost center of consciousness, you do that abhyasa again and again. Then what happens? Sanyamat anta nivhalana prakarsanat. Then you are able to sight or see. You have that nidarshana. Antar nidarshana. That means you have that witnessing of the innermost core of your consciousness. These are so many words in which they are hitting upon us to realize one thing, that you become self aware in the purest form, without names and forms, without any tails, without thinking about certain concepts, any analytical tools, anything. You go to the innermost core of your consciousness, then what happens? Prakarshad Kim atra uchyate. What to mention about it? What does he need to do about this? What do you think about this? Ida, Pingala, and Shushamna, and these channels and the air movement, how to control them, how to engineer a level of discipline. Ayami sarvadasasu dedipyamano nirbithanaha parah samadhi. Do you know this? This is the ultimate level of samadhi. If you can establish yourself in that nirudha stage, what to talk about pranayama? That is the third stage even in Yoga Sutras. Nirudha samadhi is the eighth stage, and once you are reached there, or you are by staying in that level 6, 7, and 8 all the time, and culminating in 8, what to talk about the stage 3 pranayama? Why do you have to? Why do you have to worry about that? That's gone. Once a person is writing his own research papers and he has published a few papers, he goes to the professor, he's saying, "Sir, I haven't submitted my term papers, I haven't done this coursework and this and that." He says, okay, I'll help you. He knows this guy is capable of doing his own research. He's moved forward. He doesn't need to do that. He may just write off that responsibility for him, saying that, oh, no, he doesn't have to do it. Waive it for him. Or he says, okay, you just sit in the examination, I'll see what I can do. Because he doesn't want his student to get disturbed by writing an examination and do the formalities and everything, because he knows his this story about Broughton Russell. He is one of his brilliant students, Wittgenstein. So Ludwig von Wittgenstein, he suddenly withdrew from everybody and he goes and lives in Australia, becomes a gardener, becomes a teacher. Writes his theses, spends a lot of time, and after some time he returns back to Cambridge and he meets Broughton Russell and he says, okay, I'll give you a PhD. Can you just put down all your ideas in whichever way you want and just give me a piece of document? So he gives him a piece of document and he titles it Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. It's a very short document. So he said the world is a world of facts, there's nothing beyond it. So it was a positivist thing that everything is material reality. He made a complete change, U-turn, in his next book called Philosophical Investigations. But that time, he managed to get a PhD, no coursework, nothing. He just submitted that and he was awarded a PhD because he was too brilliant. What have you written? They want to give him a PhD. They know that the formal mechanism for measuring him only undervalue the brilliance that he represents. Therefore, they don't go to make these measurements. Similarly, this verse, this aphorism is trying to say a person who is able to get into that innermost core of his consciousness and stay self-aware, he doesn't have to discuss and waste his time. Basically, he's saying the book has come to an end, you are doing anubhapaya, and you have to do a lot of upasanas. But once you reach this stage, then all these upasanas and sadhanas, which we have mentioned, we have discussed with you, are no more relevant. You should release your being at that level, being at that stage of complete self-awareness. Let's look at the Siva Sutra Vimarshini. Atascha stitepi, even though naishargike prana sambandhe, yaha tad arudha antarim kalam vimarshan aste sa lokottara eva ityaha. A person has prana sambandha, he's still breathing, right? He may not be doing pranayama 24 hours because he says, what is his katha japaha? Holding the body, that is his vrata. He doesn't have to do anything. We have already discussed all that. He doesn't have to, whatever he says is mantra. Whatever he says is japa. He doesn't have to do all the sadhanas. He's gone beyond that. We have discussed all that. What he's trying to say is, even though he's, by the way, there is a body-mind complex and he's still sticking to it. He's not dying, he's not abandoning the body. So he must be a little troubled by, he must be having hunger and, and thirst and all of the desires associated with this biological mode of existence. He's saying no. Why? Then he's explaining. Sarva nadi chakra pradhana rupeshu sabya pasavye apasavya sosumneshu dakshina bama madhya nadi padeshu. Whatever we read above, same thing is being repeated. Ya nasika nasate kautalyena bahati iti kritva. That nasika, why is that word nasika is explaining. Kutila vahini prana saktihi tasyaha, because prana sakti goes and comes out and all. Kutila vahini prana saktihi tasyaha antah iti antari samvit. Nasika antar, each word is explaining. Tasya antah iti antari samvit, that internal consciousness. Tasyaha api madhyam, in the middle of, deeper core of that internal consciousness, madhyam sarvantara tamataya. Sarvantara tamataya. The language of the Vedanta. Sarvantara tamataya. It's all pervading. It's not limited to one sadhaka. The consciousness this fellow reaches when we meditate on Tattvamasi Aham Brahmasmi, the consciousness we reach is unique to us? No, because I did mining, I found this gold mine, all the gold is mine. No, that doesn't work here. You are a spiritual miner. Okay, what do you find? You find that gold. That gold is universal gold. Everybody can reach there, and that is not your gold and my gold. There's nothing like that. If I think like that, that is actually ignorance, because it's not different from me. That mining leads to self-discovery. You don't discover gold apart from you. But gold that you are, you just discover yourself. And that you discover yourself to be is not unique to you, as some gurus might say. I realized I'm unique. That's out of partial self-realization or ignorance. Because as Vedanta says, the ultimate level of realization is to realize that Tattva is Sarvantaratma, the language of the Upanishads. Again and again, they hammered that into us. He's saying, Tasyaha antaha iti antari samit tasyaha api madhyam sarvantara tamataya pradhanam. And in that, then he's saying, Tasya devadi devasya paramabodha swarupinaha. Who is he? Lord Shiva. Tasya Shivasya devadi devasya. Deva Atideva is the supreme among all divinities. Parabodha Swarupinaha. What is the Swarupa? Parabodha. It's not about, we're not talking about the Vijnana Kosha at the Samashti level. No, we're not talking about it. You're talking beyond that. What is that? Parabodha Swarupinaha. His Parabodha Swarupin is that supreme consciousness without name and form. He's talking about that. Bhama, then what? Vimarsha Parama Shakti of the Lord Shiva, this Vimarsha Shakti, Sambit Shakti. Parama Shakti is Sarvagya Jnana Shalini. It's all aware, self-aware of everything. Why are they trying to say this? The Upanishads, they're knowing what will know everything. Because this Pancha Shakti is all Lord Shiva, if you remember. You have what? You have the most critical thing is Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and Ichha Shakti. And we have Ichha Shakti, Ruma Kumari. Ichha Shakti is superior to the Jnana Shakti. Jnana Shakti is superior to Kriya Shakti. We have discussed that earlier. So if we are going in a reverse direction to that ultimate level, that Sambit Shakti is Sarvagya Rupa. That is self-aware and it's aware of everything, because everything follows from there. Iti Sri Kalika Krama Ukta Nitya. This particular verse is taken from the Kalika Krama. Vimarshamaya Rupam Tat Sanyamat. This is the Vimarshamaya Rupa of the Shambhi Shakti. But through Abhyasa, by re-establishing oneself again and again in that high level of consciousness, Antar Nibhalana Prakarshana. Antar Nibhalana. Bhala is to see. Antarnibhalana, the ability to be self-aware, look within. I tell you, these are all words. Why? Because the more I think about it, I realize What do you mean? Because logically, what do you mean by looking at something? Because you see, we are operating from a low level of consciousness, which is dualistic in nature. I used to raise a lot of foolish questions before my acharyas earlier, and they used to say, yeah, but that is how they will explain. Vyavaharika language will be taken. What we use every day is going to be taken into account and be used to explain what is beyond us, right? As Gandhi said, that this is the most imperfect vehicle to express one's feelings. So all these words, the actual reality is nothing like looking within and stuff like that, because that is the Swarupa. Fundamentally, that alone is real. All these details are not there. And yet, for sadhana, we have to get into the details, because there is where we start engaging with that supreme reality. Then you have this, you have sense perception, you have anumana, you go deeper, you do analysis, you do manana, you do nididhyasana. Slowly, all of it that we do will become less and less relevant. But then, nevertheless, we have to do them. He's saying, then what happens? Prakarshat, kimatra uchyate, what to speak of it? Ayam hi sarvadasasu dedipyamano nirvyuthanaha parasamadhi. That is the same sentence taken from Bhattakalatu, which is above. He's saying what to say about it, because that in all states, Jagrata, Swapna, Susupti, in all states, past, present, future, dedipyamana nirvyuthana. Nirvyuthana means there is no vyuthana dasa. Now, outside he may be active, is absolutely not disturbed by anything. So in the Vijnana Bhairava, the sutra number, the verse number, Vijnana Bhairava Tantra 106 is mentioned. Grahya grahaka sambitihi samanya sarvadehinam yoginam tu vishesoyam sammade savadhanata. Grahya grahaka sambitihi samanya sarvadehinam. Anybody who is alive, there is a grahaka and there is a grahya. There is a knower, there is a known. And there is a connection. The grahya connects with the grahya through grahana, through knowledge, through bhoga, all that. Yogi is different. What does he do? He's saying, yoginam tu visheshoyam sambandhe savadhanata. There is something special about them. This grahya grahaka sambandha, when it happens, they become more focused on it. How does that happen? The grahaka is not that individual, tiny, limited consciousness. They're all the time aware of their grahaka swarupa. As we earlier discussed, the drik drishya viveka, drik chaitanya and drishya, whatever is appearing around you is not real, and he's not disturbed. He knows I'm different from the drishya varga, whatever is appearing around me. Therefore, he's saying, so vishesoyam sambandhe savadhanata iti. This is how sort of it comes to an end. And we will go to the next verse in the next class, and that is the last aphorism. And then we'll try to do a bit of conclusive, concluding discussions. Maybe in the last and following the next one, I'll bring the discussion to a close. In case you have any questions, you can feel free to ask if you have any, or we'll do the Santi mantras. Any questions? Okay, let's do the Santi mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Tat Sat. Thank you.